A wild offseason, including the retirement of Tom Brady, then the unretirement of Tom Brady, Todd Bowles being named the next head coach, and a number of roster moves. Does all this mean that the Buccaneers can go back to the Super Bowl?
Perfect.
The 2021 season was very eventful for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad. The craziness of Antonio Brown's drama, the butting of heads between Tom Brady as well as the head coach Bruce Arians, speculations about what was going on behind the scenes, but it did lead them still to a playoff berth where eventually they did lose to the eventual Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams in the division round. Then following that incredible performance by Tom Brady, just some time later announcing his retirement, and then a couple of months of being bored and away from football, Tom Brady announced his unretirement, coming back into the NFL. So it's been a pretty crazy offseason, and then Arians stepping away with a lot of speculation as to why that happened post Tom Brady returning to the NFL, and then Todd Bowles, the former New York Jets head coach and the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive coordinator, now being elevated to the head coaching role for the Buccaneers in 2022. What does all of that mean? What are the implications of all of that heading into this upcoming season? Well, obviously, there was a lot of big moves that were made. There were some additions, there were some changes, there were some, just movements all throughout this Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster. And I want to examine their offseason so far and even speculate as to whether or not this team can make it back to the Super Bowl. Taking a look at free agency and trades, the big gem move that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made this offseason was the trade for guard Shaq Mason from the New England Patriots. Shaq Mason is a two-time Super Bowl champion who blocked for Tom Brady in New England, is a very well-established interior lineman within the NFL, one of the better offensive linemen within the NFL. Surprisingly, has not made a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro list, but is right on that line and right on the cusp of being one of those players, maybe being a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see him get a Pro Bowl nod. Maybe if he plays extravagant football, maybe seeing him get an All-Pro nod. But Shaq Mason is absolutely no slouch in the slightest along the offensive line. He's going to replace Alex Kappa, who decided to move on to some different pastures over in Cincinnati to block for quarterback Joe Burrow. So filling in that void was absolutely paramount. And for the low cost of just a fifth-round pick and just requiring the $6 million contract of Shaq Mason, honestly, this move made an absolute ton of sense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go out and just get, again, one of the better offensive linemen, especially along the interior in the NFL. He's going to provide a great boost to the running game and is an ample pass protector. Another move that I really liked by the Bucs was the signing of the defensive back Logan Ryan, another former teammate of Tom Brady's who went through his time in New England, has also spent some time in Tennessee, and most recently with the New York Giants. Logan Ryan reestablished himself from a corner to a safety and has proved to be a very strong performer out of the safety spot in entirety. So I really like this move for the Buccaneers secondary that last year allowed the most yards per game in the entire NFL at 307 yards per game against the pass. Now, their front seven is really strong, obviously with some really good pass rush, some very strong linebacker play, but that secondary absolutely was dreadful last year. So any movement, honestly, any additions made into that secondary is probably going to be better than things were last year. So moving off of free agency and trade acquisitions, I want to take a look at their NFL draft and examine at least three of the picks that I actually liked out of this Buccaneers draft class. Starting off number one, their round 2 selection in Logan Hall, the defensive lineman out of Houston. Now, watching some tape on Logan Hall post-draft, I really like this move. He reminds me of a much more raw Arik Armstead. He can play on the interior and pass rushes very well coming from the interior, but you could probably toss him out on the edge depending on whatever package. If Todd Bowles wants to throw a 3-4 look, you could definitely keep Logan Hall out there as your outside defensive edge rusher, but mostly plays well from the interior. And I like this move a lot because pairing him up with a guy like Vita Vea, who also is a dominant interior presence, I think Logan Hall is going to see a lot of opportunities. Their last first round pick last year, if I'm not mistaken, Joe Tyron, looked really, really good as well. So he's going to be able to fill in that role for Jason Pierre-Paul. And now with Ndamukong Suh's absence, I think Logan Hall is going to absolutely elevate and take over that position, just adding some more pass rush and then giving some more relief to the back end secondary. Logan Hall at like 6'6", 6'7", is a bigger body defensive lineman. I wouldn't expect him to be putting up 10 sacks or anything crazy, but he is going to add some pass rush to the interior that Todd Bowles is really going to covet. In round 3, the Buccaneers went running back, getting Rachaad White out of ASU, Arizona State University. Watching film on White, there's not anything that necessarily splashes off the page at you. However, he does have some open field quickness and elusive tendencies. Now, he's able to break off of tacklers in the open field and extend the play for a little bit longer. He's not necessarily a grind running back that you're going to put up the middle and expect him to fall forward and get like 3 more yards. That's why they have Leonard Fournette. But I think he's going to be a very nice complement that could easily take over the role left behind by Ronald Jones. I think he's a little bit quicker. I think maybe he's a little bit more of, again, just more of an elusive back. Leonard Fournette can obviously do a lot of those things, but if you're looking for a nice complement, I think Rachaad White is going to complement very nicely with Fournette. I like this pick out of round 3. I think he probably has a much higher ceiling. Obviously, I probably haven't spent nearly as much time watching as much film on Rachaad White as probably some other people. So, take my take on Rachaad White maybe with a little grain of salt. I don't dislike the player. I actually do like this fit for the Buccaneers. They needed some more running back depth as a whole, and I think White has a lot of potential. And then in round 2, Luke Goedeke to fill in the left guard spot left behind by Ali Marpet. I really like this move out of round 2 because, well, offensive line is going to be the name of the game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the offense. They have obviously a lot of superstar talent at the wide receiver position. You have the greatest of all time in Tom Brady staying back there at quarterback. And I think Goedeke, even though he played tackle in college, I think he's going to transfer very well to left guard. At the NFL level, he's going to be competing for the starting role pretty early on, possesses a lot of raw athleticism, a lot of just general football talent, so to speak. I think they're going to be able to coach him very well. Maybe not expecting him to start day 1, but I think he certainly could be in the conversation to be a starter come, the end of preseason. I think Goedeke possesses a lot of ability. He may not be a Pro Bowl talent, but he's going to be more than serviceable along the interior of the offensive line. Tampa Bay, the line in general, offensive and defensive, it seems like they have things pretty well figured out, and I like this move a lot. Just, again, you're adding another very high potential piece along the offensive line, and I expect Todd Bowles and his crew to take full advantage of Goedeke's strengths. So with NFL free agency, trades, and the NFL draft out of the way, I'm going to look ahead to the NFL season, and let's predict on both halves of the NFL season, the first 9 weeks and then the final 9 weeks of the season, accumulating all 18 weeks, including the bye week. So let's just hop right into that. So starting the season off at the Dallas Cowboys, then you're going to see the New Orleans Saints, then versus the Green Bay Packers at home, and then the Chiefs coming to town, and then the Atlanta Falcons also coming to town. So a 3-game homestead by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers between weeks 3 through 5, and then at Pittsburgh, at Carolina, back home versus the Ravens, and then back home versus the Los Angeles Rams. Within that stretch, I could easily see the Buccaneers snagging 6 wins. This team is very well put together. I think they're built to last, and as long as they can stay healthy, I think an easy 6 wins within that range is very, very possible. The second half of the season versus the Seattle Seahawks at home, then they have their bye week. Then the Cleveland Browns on the road, and then the New Orleans Saints back in Tampa, then across the country to go play against the San Francisco 49ers, then versus the Bengals at home, Arizona Cardinals in Arizona, back home against Carolina, and then back on the road against the Atlanta Falcons to finish out the season. A little bit more back and forthing, a little bit more travel on the second half leg of the season. However, I think this Buccaneers team could easily still see about 5 wins along this stretch, bringing their record overall to about 11 wins. I wouldn't be shocked if you see this team winning maybe 12 or even 13 games if a lot of their key playmakers can stay healthy, and if You know, everything just starts to work pretty well under Todd Bowles' tutelage. I don't expect there to be a lot of changes. I expect Tom Brady to be heavily involved with Byron Leftwich along the offense. So the offense is probably not going to see too much of a change, but I expect their defense to get a lot more aggressive under Todd Bowles. This is absolutely a playoff roster. This is absolutely a playoff expectation team, and I think this team has a lot of the great pieces that you need. Strong front seven. You have a really strong and explosive offense and a great quarterback leading the way. All of those things mix very, very well into becoming a team that can find itself all the way in the Super Bowl. For this Buccaneers team, it is absolutely Super Bowl or bust, and I think it's fair to assume in an NFC that arguably got weaker this past offseason, that if the Buccaneers were to even miss the conference championship, it might be a disappointing season. So, all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching the video. Of course, feel free to stick around and watch some more content. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and of course, get the bell on to know every single time that I'm dropping a video. My name is Tristan Blake Rines, and I'm going to catch you in the next one. Adios.